Okay, so today we're diving into something a little unsettling, to be honest. I mean, we're talking about the International Space Station, right? The ISS.
Right.
It's got a leak, a persistent one.
Yeah. And this isn't exactly a brand new problem either. It's been hanging around since 2019. And it's not just a tiny little drip we're talking about here.
No, definitely not a slow drip. So before we get into what's being done about this whole leak situation, can you give us a little background? Like, where is this leak? How bad is it? And, what are we dealing with here?
Sure. So the leak is in what's called the Zvezda module. It's a key part of the Russian segment of the station.
Okay.
And the problem is it seems to be getting worse over time. Like right now, they estimate it's losing 3.7 pounds of air every day.
3.7 pounds of air every single day. That's not exactly great. So what's actually being done to fix this?
Well, the good news is that NASA and Roscosmos, the Russian space agency, they're working together. They're trying to locate and obviously repair this leak.
That sounds like a pretty tough job.
It is. I mean, imagine trying to find a tiny crack, maybe microscopic even, in a pipe. But that pipe is constantly vibrating, and it's exposed to, well, the extremes of space. The temperatures, the radiation, everything.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly complex. Have they made any progress?
Well, they've been focusing on the Zvezda module. Specifically, they've been looking very closely at the welds. Those are often weak points in any structure, let alone one floating in space.
Right. Yeah.
But so far, finding that exact spot, the source of the leak, it's been elusive.
And, it's serious enough that they've classified this as a level 5 threat, which is their highest level of concern. So for those of us who aren't astronauts, what does that really mean? Like, what's the actual risk here?
It means this leak could jeopardize the whole mission, and more importantly, it could endanger the crew. That's why it's a level 5.
Okay, so definitely not something to take lightly. So what happens if they can't fix it? Is there a plan B?
There is, but it's not a perfect solution. Roscosmos is prepared to seal off the entire Zvezda module if it gets worse.
So basically contain the problem, but what are the downsides of doing that?
Well, it would prevent any more air from escaping, but it also means cutting off access to anything stored in that module. That includes vital supplies and equipment.
Yeah, that's a tough trade-off. So it seems like this leak is a pretty clear sign that the ISS, it's not invincible.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. It's over 2 decades old at this point. And like anything that ages, it needs more maintenance, more repairs. This leak, it's just one symptom of that bigger picture.
And it's not just about age, right? I mean, there's all sorts of hazards in space.
You've got it. We're talking about constant bombardment from micrometeoroids, space debris, even things we take for granted here on Earth, like supply chains. Any disruption there has huge consequences in space.
So even if they do manage to fix this leak, it feels like the clock is ticking for the ISS, isn't it?
It is. The plan right now is to deorbit the ISS by 2030. SpaceX is actually developing the spacecraft that will be used for that mission. And that in itself is going to be incredibly complex and risky. We're talking about safely deorbiting something of that size.
It really makes you think about what comes next. If the ISS is coming to an end, what does the future hold for humans in space?
That's the big question, isn't it? And I think the ISS, especially with this situation, it forces us to really look at the importance of international collaboration. We've seen what NASA and Roscosmos can achieve together. How do we keep that momentum going? What will be the next chapter for us in space? Those are questions we need to be asking.
A lot to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the ISS and its uncertain future. Remember to keep looking up.